Hi, my name is Tiz, and for the past 6 years or so, I have been studying, practicing, and testing the concept of play. Today, I will talk about the art of playing with others, particularly focusing on Larp to study the intricacies of social play at large scales. Larp is a social play form that depends on human connections. A significant part of the strength and fragility of Larps comes from the face-to-face interactions. This presential nature of Larp allows for significant levels of agency, while requiring, in turn, a significant amount of trust and endowment from all participants and organizers alike. A defining factor of presential playforms is the limited and controlled player counts. The one-on-one connections grow quadratically as the group grows. In Larp, one more or one fewer player can significantly impact the make-believe. Ultimately, most Larps rely on small groups to create that type of vulnerability that enables play to emerge. However, some large-scale Larps have achieved consecutive success. Held in the UK, Emperor Larp has hosted around 3,000 participants since 2013. In large-scale Larps like Empire, play is a civic practice, built upon the shared trust, negotiated rules, and co-created meaning. There have been multiple explorations that relate to group size and social cohesion. Philosopher Plato discusses the idea of population size for a polis, proposing the number 5,040 through somewhat of a complex reasoning involving divisibility and practicalities of a state organization. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar proposed a cognitive limit to the number of stable relationships a person can maintain, suggesting a limit of around 150 meaningful relationships, that is, relationships of regular contact and cooperation. Dunbar understood relationships as ripples in a pond, layers whose quality, closeness, and strength decreases as the circle gets bigger. In psychology, groupings between 12 and 15 are sometimes called the sympathy groups. These are the typical size of most team sports, the number of members of a jury, or the number of apostles. Small groups usually function without a structure, relying instead on personal communication. All social groups have a critical threshold at which informal mechanisms break down and formal hierarchies emerge to maintain, oversee, and regulate social interactions. Heavily mediated player interactions are designed to compensate for the fundamental lack of trust on large-scale groups, where unmediated trust cannot realistically be sustained. This is when trust is often placed on the system rather than on the social bonds or the make-believe. Large-scale LARPs emerge through many years of world-building and participation. Most LARPs require some form of preparation, not only to understand the rules and culture, but it has a decisive underlying role in building trust and reinforcing the make-believe. This means that the preparation inherently introduces the player to the imaginary world. At Empire, the preparation starts with creating a character. To do so, a new player first chooses one of 10 imperial nations, defining what they can do and explore over the run of play. Empire functions like an ordinary human society that can be studied at a political and economic level. The system is modeled after a blend of feudal and bureaucratic states. The head of the throne is elected by the Imperial Senate, composed of representatives of each territory. For a new player, the choice of a nation is perhaps the most important. Each nation has a unique social system, hierarchies, and costumes. The character creation process gives the player a place and a purpose within the imaginary world. Part of the character creation is to choose skills and resources, a lineage, a formal archetype, decide on the intentions of play, and craft a backstory among other unique tasks. Then the players have to prepare costumes, props, campaign gear bespoke to the character choices. By the time a player gets to the event, they are predisposed to immersion and connection within a world they already understand. They see themselves reflected in the fictional world as they enter the shared make-believe. The paper power control in role-playing games defines three primary forms of authority. The external authority that defines the limits based on the natural world. The referential authority emerges from appealing to external sources like game rules and narrative conventions. The voluntary nature of Empire means that a significant part of the referential authority falls in the hands of players and volunteers. Finally, the social authority is based on agreements and norms between players. In LARPs, the community actively upholds the social contract. engaging in negotiations usually without the intervention of a higher authority. Social boundaries in role-playing games are fluid, and players have the responsibility to balance their expectations and motivations with those of the group. In-character power is not tied to mechanical progression. It is earned by contributing to Empire, by building a legacy through in-game actions and connections. To reach higher roles of governance and influence, a player must undergo a character evolution process likely involving numerous events to build a reputation, alliances, and connections. Senator Cesare Sanguineo Recia di Tassato has served for about 38 consecutive seasons, so for about 9.5 years. His tenure is marked by significant contributions to the city infrastructure and cultural landscape. Ultimately, the extent of intensity experienced in a Larp depends significantly on the length of time invested. Empire is a living organism that evolves, changes, and grows over past events. A key aspect of trust is accountability, which occurs when players interact repeatedly over time. Players are more likely to engage in antisocial behavior in and out of character if the social encounter is a one-time event rather than a long-term commitment. Empire culture endures partially because of experienced and veteran players that represent the majority of participants at any event. Experienced players maintain the culture and the community norms as they directly or indirectly teach the culture to new players. To put it simply, at Empire, players are likely to act according to the norms because they trust others will do the same. Every new player has a different experience, and not all of them are positive. The player base represents people from different costumes, ages, and professions, sometimes causing conflicts, disputes, player alienation, and breaches to the make-believe. Nevertheless, players share enough similarities for Empire to survive for over a decade. Barriers of entry can equally be an aspect of social cohesion as it is a form of social exclusion. Things like the physical location, costs, time, language, among other key aspects, pre-profile what kind of players can participate at Empire. Like any ordinary subculture, the LARP community faces a conundrum between becoming more accessible and inclusive or conserving the culture and social cohesion. The future might be uncertain, but Empire will live on. Recently, Profound Decisions, the organization behind Empire, purchased a permanent site in the English Midlands, marking a pivotal point for LARPs and community organizations. The shareholders own 49.9% and Profound Decision owns the other 50.1%. Organizers, crew, and players are now looking at a blank space to finally build Empire with permanent structures, vegetation, and infrastructure. Moreover, part of the ambition is to create a national live role-playing center for hosting different LARPs, events, conventions beyond Empire. In an era of increasingly mediated social relationships and communications, LARPs remind us of the value of presence. We are reminded that enduring cultures aren't built by the systems alone, and maybe, just maybe, by studying how we play together, we can learn something about how we live together too. Thank you.